right, Joe's given us the high sign that says we are on. It is 5 o'clock, not our normal time, but it's 5. So I would like to call us to order in accordance with South Carolina Code of Laws, 1985, Section 30-4-80-E. The following have been notified of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting: the Herald, the Charlotte Observer, CN2, and WRHI. So welcome, everybody, to our special July meeting. If I could ask you please to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I look up there and it looks like we've got slow batteries in our clock because that says it's not 5 o'clock.
Right, I know.
It's not, that's the unofficial call.
That's right. You have all received a copy of the agenda. Were there any adjustments or corrections? If not, that will stand with unanimous consent. And likewise, in your materials are the minutes from our June 7th, which was our last board meeting. Were there any adjustments or corrections to that?
I found a couple that I sent
Okay.
to Ms. Pat.
All right, then that will stand as slightly amended. Ms. Pettis, do we have any public participation tonight? All right, we do not. So we're going to get right into, we've really got two big topics tonight. The first one is an update on a brand audit and a brand program that's been underway for the last few months. Mr. Burke, I'm going to let you sort of broker the conversation. I know you're going to have some guests come up and talk to us as well.
Good evening. I'm glad to be up here with you tonight to discuss this topic. This is something we've been working on, as you said, for several months. The process actually began going back into our strategic planning with the new strategic plan that was created. One of the things that was identified in there was that the district needed to take a fresh look at our brand, including our visual imagery, our colors, our mottos, our vision, everything. A lot of the stuff that we have in Fort Mill has not been updated in quite a while. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. We've done very well in this district, and we believe that at the time that those were created, the mission, vision, logos, and everything served very well. But as time changed, as we have new faces coming in here, as the technology changes, we always want to continue to stay fresh and at the top level as possible and make sure that our brand is represented out there in the public, not only in our area, but is known outside of our area. And that's something we work very hard for in this district. So tonight, we're going to give you guys a look at what the labors over the past few months have created. We're very proud of what we've got. You're going to see a lot of different information from the, as I said, mission, vision, motto to some visual identity stuff. And at the end, there's the really neat part. You even get to see some samples of some things that we've kind of test drove this stuff on. So we're presenting this tonight as information, and then we'll be moving forward after this with the board to make sure that everything is in line and proper and ready to go for our district. And then we'll talk about where we'll be at for kickoff and when we can start implementation. So tonight we have a very special guest with us from Rhodes Branding. It's Jennifer Tisch. She is the Vice President of Branding and Creative for Rhodes Branding, which they're an outside marketing group. You've heard that name before. They helped us with our communication audit the last time around, but she really is a powerhouse in this. She's done this same project for multiple for-profit big name companies, and we're very, very happy to have her now doing this for school districts and specifically our school district. So I'm going to turn over to Jennifer. She's going to take you through how we got to where we are today, and then I'll talk a little bit more about some possible future plans and how we would roll this out once we're ready to do so. That's for you. Forward as we go.
All right, fantastic. Hi, good evening.
Hello.
Okay, so as Joe was saying, just to give a little bit of perspective, I joined the Rhodes Branding team about a year ago, and my previous careers were more in consumer packaged goods, so Procter & Gamble, Kimberly-Clark, Colgate-Palmolive. So I'm really trying to kind of utilize a lot of those same processes to develop schools and, you know, K through 12. So whether that's a district or a school. And really this is elevating up, I think, the opportunities to not just kind of communicate and market in the right way, but I think that because we're such an exposed society now, this is a great opportunity, especially for Fort Mill being number one, for you guys to really, really kind of grab hold of all of the equities that you currently have and really make those shine. So this was really an opportunity for us to kind of highlight all of those things that really kind of sets you guys apart. So what is branding? So branding is the sum total of emotions and thoughts your audience has about your district. So this is really just kind of a way to make sure that we're all talking about the same thing. It's not anything that we would put on the back of a horse. It's not just, you know, a logo on a t-shirt, but it really truly is much more about kind of the heart and soul of who your district is and how it kind of stands up to competition, which we'll talk about. So what we really did over the past couple months was we wanted to make sure that we had a relevant brand experience that evokes emotional connection. So evokes emotional connection tends to be the tricky part. It is a little bit more of that kind of the brand love activation that causes so much challenge, again, because it has everything to do with communicating through our media channels, right? So how do we touch someone's soul and heart through social media, right? So that's kind of a big challenge. So this is the process that we have gone through. We are on the last stage. So the branding process is 1 through 4. It's assess who, why, and what. And then the last phase is the marketing phase. And so that, again, is something that I just wanted to clarify for everyone, is that it's not about the marketing. It's much more about the branding. Once we get the branding right, the marketing will kind of fall out of that really, really easy. So all of the decisions that we have been kind of bringing to you guys, these are ways for us to be much more efficient and much more effective. So assess is basically just how we measure against our neighboring or competitive districts. And so I'll give you guys a snapshot of that. The who is really speaking directly to them. So making decisions, which we've made together in this room, who we really want our audience to be. Is that a student? Is that a teacher? For recruiting purposes, is it a parent? And then the why. So why would a teacher pick this particular district to come to over any other district? You know, we feel like it's obvious to us, it's a great place to be, it's a really cool school, but we want to make sure that we can elicit those same feelings from, you know, maybe a school teacher that's in California right now. So how do we get them to move across the country? The what is, what do we want our parents to experience when they engage with our brand? This can also go for students and the general public. So what does our social media look like? What does our website look like? What does our logo look like? We really want to develop and make those decisions choicefully and thoughtfully. And then the how is the bringing it to life. So the logo, which we'll see tonight, print, website, PR, content management, all of that stuff will fall out of what we present to you guys tonight. Okay. So the assess, so this was really trying to understand competition or neighboring districts. So this is kind of a snapshot. We went deep on these, and I won't belabor the point, but we've got some really close districts that we really wanted to make sure that we were managing and we were standing out and we were really understanding what our point of difference is. So what you're seeing here is our way of kind of looking at points of parity, points of difference, color palette. And again, we're really just trying to analyze where we fit in the entire state. And then the who, so when we did our brand immersion here, we actually did this exercise together with everyone in the room, and we had a really nice mix of folks participating. It was really actually a pretty fun day. But this was our way of collectively understanding who we wanted to talk to as a team. So we picked Cora, Cassidy, and the Browns. We basically just wanted to narrow in on a particular person so that we could identify how we were going to communicate to them, and then we would obviously get a halo. So typically in marketing, the challenge is that you market to everybody. And when you market to everybody, you don't actually talk to anyone. So this was our way of really making sure that what we were saying made sense and it was a relevant experience. And then the why. So what I'll share with you is the brand purpose, the mission, vision. So this is really trying to understand, again, what that heart and soul is. So why do we exist in, again, the district, in the state, and what really is our point of difference? So I'll give you a couple examples. I'll just kind of focus your energy on Goldfish, and some of you have already seen this, but Goldfish, their brand purpose is why do they exist in the world? It's instilling optimism in children. It's not about crackers. It's not about healthy choices. It's not about baked goods. It's not about fishing. It's much more on a higher level. So that's where we really needed to elevate the brand. So the Fort Mill District, we know that it's all about educating kids and it's all about growing our society. But what truly was our higher level purpose? So that's kind of where the work started. And again, we did that work together. And then the what. So how can we design the experience that we want people to have with our brand? It's in our court, right? So we have that choice. So we can make those decisions of how they experience us. So the archetype was a really fun exercise that we did with our team, our packed full room. And this is really started from the Carl Jung archetype models. There's 12, and we narrowed it down and we selected one that would be our personification for the Fort Mill District. And so this is how other brands use this particular model. And this is a pretty difficult, very challenging exercise for our entire group because we really did need to narrow down and make sure that we were walking in the right direction. And so we ended up with the hero. So when we bring our brand to life, and I'll read through that. When we bring our brand to life, we are going to use that as a personification. So that is also an aid that we'll use in addition to our brand purpose. So this is where we currently are. So our new brand, so our brand definition, our overarching purpose. So the internal is on the left, the external is on the right. The internal is we exist to empower all. The vision is build connections and create conversation. The mission is create a sense of belonging for all. The values are impact, growth, and empowerment. The beliefs are we believe in individual experience for each student, and we believe in partnership between home and school. The imperatives, the we will statements to really kind of rally cry. We will create an outstanding community. We will develop a collaborative learning environment, and we will challenge and inspire all students to exceed their greatest dreams. So we talked a lot about dreams. We talked a lot about exceeding expectations. We wanted to get it down on print. The internal examples are something that this team could really, really use as again, a precipice, right? And so we could put them on the walls. We could paint them on maybe every faculty room there is. So these are things that are all about the rally cry. They're all about aligning our values and our principles together. When you recruit a teacher, we want to make sure that they align with our Fort Mill values. So we could actually use this to help us recruit. So are your values the same as our values? Well, we value impact, growth, and empowerment. So again, these are tools that will hopefully make the next couple years very efficient and effective.
So just clarification, even though they're called internal, I think what you're saying is that it is still okay and in fact intended to be used with others, not just internally within the schools.
So yeah, so you're correct. So internal, so that's kind of, it's going to be your guiding principles internally. Externally, you would be able to develop any type of marketing campaign on the external side. So the internal side could drive internal decisions. So again, if you wanted to repaint your teacher's lounge, you could put your values on your teacher's lounge. But you wouldn't necessarily want to go outside and say, we value growth and empowerment, because that's one of those internal values that are going to be your guiding principles. So that's your heart and soul. Whereas all of the external, so your brand character, is how you're going to show up. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like your internal is your heart and soul, your external is what you wear. Does that make sense? Okay, all right, we'll get there. Okay, so the external, so our motto is empowering our future, our overall equity. So this is what we really need to kind of establish and build, is establish impactful pathways for our students and staff. The brand character is purposeful, progressive, and inclusive, and our tone of voice is accepting, inviting, and respectful. So when we develop marketing materials or recruiting materials, it could be enrollment materials, it could just be a community invite. These are all of the things that are going to be our rubric. So our success criteria is, are these purposeful? Yes, check. So that's going to really help us define and make decisions, whether it's me or whether it's anybody in here. These are going to help define and move the needle forward. So it's your,
They're not necessarily the words.
Correct.
That would be included in the
correct.
materials.
You
Okay,
got it.
that was
Yep,
the
you got it.
clarification I was
Yep. Yep. So it is much more about a rubric. So these are principles at a kind of higher level. So how we bring those to life visually would all kind of come out of here. Hopefully it'll come to life a little bit more. Okay, so we are the heroes, which is what I was saying before. So our overarching school district is the hero. We talked a lot about being the caregiver, being the everyman. We feel like our schools can be that, but our overarching is going to be the hero. So we support the schools, we support the teachers, we support secondarily the students. So we really wanted to make sure that we were enablers, we were allowing for support for their voices. So we are the inspiration. So as the second paragraph is what our audience feels. This is really one of the things that I feel like is the best part of this is heroes inspire us to be bigger, braver, and stronger. So that was really, really powerful in how we wanted to stand up to the community. So that was one of the integral parts of making this decision was we inspire others. So we are empowering our teachers. We are empowering our community. We are empowering our students. So it all kind of trickles down, but we're still in the background. We don't have to take credit for anything, right? But we're supporting. So what is valued by the hero? Courage, discipline, competence, and achievement. Motivations are the heroes are motivated by a challenge to succeed despite having odds stacked against them. The goals, the hero wants to make a positive mark on the world, to solve major problems and inspire others to do so. So a lot of what is said here, again, this is going to be the personification of our brand. So this is our brand archetype. Go ahead.
And these are not things that were created for the district. These are things about the hero, which applies to other brands as well.
Correct.
I don't remember what other brands we said
Yep.
were affiliated
Nike
with.
is a hero as well, so they provide the apparel or the shoes that are going to make you run faster, right? So yes, so correct. This is kind of a universal branding tool now. It, I think, really does help us kind of give a little bit more direction, and it helps us build empathy with our audience. So this personification, we can look at other brands that are also heroes. We can look at other archetypes that are heroes, and that will absolutely help us kind of make those connections, whether it's visually or verbally. Okay, so then this is the new seal. So empowering our future. So the only major difference to this is that we changed the empowering our future. We tweaked the font a little bit to stand out better, to be a little bit more confident, and we removed the ribbon. So it's a little bit simpler.
Is it our or the future? I saw it. It said
It
the
should be
in one of
our.
these.
It should be our.
It said the in one of those. Okay. Okay.
Okay. So what I'm going to share with you is basically our first version of our logo, and really what we are trying to bring to life is not just our lineage of the graduate. We want to bring the graduate to life in a different way because we're still celebrating our heritage, right? We still are embedded in the community. We're still #1 in South Carolina. So we're celebrating that. We're not walking away from it, but we're taking a very different perspective on it. So this perspective is really going to be, again, much more relevant for our target audience. It's going to be much more modern, and it's going to have the flexibility that we feel like we need across the entire brand. So not just the website, not just the social media, but across the entire brand. So this is really going to kind of help enable us to build that creative strategy. I ruined the surprise. So we took a very, very simple approach to this. We've gone through a lot of iterations. We obviously would love to get your blessing and confirmation so that we can roll this out for the new school year. And it is something that we've gone back and forth around both the color and the font, how this is going to be established within the style guides. But we felt like this really positioned us in a great place to have it live on for 5 to 10 years. So it's simple, it's sophisticated, and it has the flexibility that we really need to kind of evolve with the society that we're in, the digital society, that is. We have flexibility with color palette. It's a lot lighter. It's very kind of formal, but it has a little bit of that yellow spice that we, again, are pulling from our old palette. So that's kind of our lineage that we're getting in there, so our spicy yellow. These are all,
Usually the one that's spicy, just for the record.
you know, you gotta have a little bit of spice. We've got our beautiful blues, you know, they're very cool colors, and we needed a little bit of hot hit. So we needed just a pinch of warmth to spice it up. So we've got different opportunities for placement of our new logo. And again, I think, I think Joe really wants to start ordering. And then this is a simplified seal. This, I don't know that this would actually replace our, the more official seal, but this would really be a way to, you know, kind of flex and have an additional design asset. And then this is what it would look like with competition. So again, kind of going back to our assess, that is really helping us make design decisions specific to what our neighboring districts or our competition look like, feel like, act like. So we really saw this as being very modern, very iconic. Because we've got that F and that M already built into the monogram, we felt like we could really use this to kind of move the needle for the next decade. Questions?
Can you,
Thoughts?
Can you go back to the slide where you had the names of the Browns, the family,
Yep.
that slide,
The Who's?
the Who's, yes, because I don't think that was in our packet, that slide.
No, it's not.
The beginning part, the process, I didn't add in there just because it was more of an explanation of what we did to get where we are. Forward. Oh, there it is.
Okay. I didn't see the slide, so I was.
Yep.
I didn't have a chance to look
And
at it.
obviously, you know, we can send forth our larger deck. We didn't want to take up too much time tonight to go through all of the details, but this was coming out of our brand immersion session that we did as a team. We did this activity of who do we really want to target and how do we build them? So what does a day in the life look like? What is their background? Who do we truly want to talk to? And that could be aspirant too. So I think Cora's aspirant, she's a young teacher, she's 24. We want her to move to this district. We want her to move to Fort Mill. So how then do we create a tone of voice that's going to be appropriate for her?
And you
So-
got this, correct me if I'm wrong, from the exercise that was done in this room.
Yep.
I think several board members, maybe all.
Yep.
were part of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
But that was the conclusion of all the table work. I believe Cora emerged
Yep.
and Cassidy and the Brown.
Yep, that's right, yep. So this came out of it, and really kind of building the brand definition. A lot of the words, that we had used for archetype, and the values, all of that stuff really did fall into the brand definition. So I think the fun part about this process is that I don't necessarily create anything. I just gather it from the team. So really that day we had, 40 or 50 folks in here, and it was really a way for me to collect the right information and reorganize it in a way that you guys can use it now to make decisions. So a lot of this stuff, I may have just kind of tweaked some of the names and pulled different photos, but again, these are ways for us to really kind of deliver to you guys an entire brand platform. And then obviously a part of this will be the messaging platform that Joe's really going to use, again, to unify.
What other colors besides the mustard did we play with?
We actually looked at a lot of colors. I'll talk about that.
I think the room overwhelmingly supports hot pink.
I tried.
They're
tried.
actually-
I
Branding.
will say, I like it better than mustard.
At one
Branding,
time,
I would like that better than spicy yellow,
Spicy
Yeah.
yellow.
hot pink.
at one time there was a version that had a closer to a pink color in there. We explored green, we explored yellows, we explored
Orange, purple.
orange, purple. Surprisingly enough, nobody wanted to go with the gator color one that was in there. I was kind of surprised by that. But no, we looked at a lot of different colors for this. And we looked at the use of those colors. So, for example, the navy blue and the light blue would be the primary use colors. The yellow would be just a single accent color that would get used in a sparing fashion. It would not be a prominent color that we would use. So the main two that would be used would be the navy and the light blue.
But the question is this the main logo that would be used everywhere?
Yes, this would become the district's primary logo. Now, as with our schools, like when we go through this process, there are primary and secondaries. And then there's formal logo as well, just as schools have a crest. So
That's right.
we would continue to use the current crest that we have with the additions and changes that have been made to it. This would become the main primary full logo. You would then have a secondary logo that would just be the image with the mortar board with the F. And then, of course, there is the this other seal that was created that's more of an informal seal that we could use at any time we want to as well, too. So they are interchangeable just as we do with our schools, where we have multi-stack instead of just that
right.
one version for it, which, as she said, gives us the flexibility moving forward depending on what the use is.
That's right.
My concern is anytime you add a third color, that the cost of the print increases dramatically.
Sure.
So I think we're either going to have a greater expense or we're never going to use it.
Well, and that would depend on what the purpose is too. That's if you go to, let's see if we can click ahead to, depending on what the print purposes is. So we may go with a single color print where we're just using, say, the white on the darker color or the darker on the light color with a single print. We do that currently with all of our school logos as well. We get single color logos or black and white versions of them for use too. So it may depend on what that use is and that cost. That's some of the side effects that come from using color palettes. I will say, if we go back to the school slide and you start looking at color palettes, we're actually one of two that are using only 3. Some of them have upwards of 5 to 9, which also makes it hard to
Yeah, and
delineate that as well too.
That was actually how we landed where we landed, because really this slide. So when we first shared this concept, it was very loud. And again, the intent was to stand out. And I think that what our continuing conversation is that there was a level of sophistication that was missing from some of the brighter, warmer colors. And so bringing it into more of a cooler palette with the blues, making it a dominant blue, it felt much more on equity for Fort Mill, but it was a lot safer. So in the sense that safety and security is number 1 right now in the entire world. So we really, really wanted to make sure that that was kind of a moniker of our new mark moving forward, was that it felt safe, it was very grounded. It wasn't there to shock and surprise, but obviously I wanted to add a little bit of spice. So the spice color was something that I didn't see happening in the rest of the competition, so that was really a reason for adding a little bit of warmth.
And the other thought in creating of colors is we have to go beyond just where they're used in the logo. We have to consider
Right.
a color palette that's going to work for
Website.
other materials, digital materials like the website. I test drove a lot of these colors on our website to find out wasn't going to blind you whenever you went to the site, or wasn't going to be hard to read, or wasn't just going to be kind of hard to look at. And we did see some combinations look great when they're used in a small area like this,
Right.
but when you start blowing it up to use it in a large area, say for a print flyer graphic or a large space on a digital website, it gets a little nauseating, to be honest with you. So we were trying to come up with something that's going to be very eye-pleasing, is easy to navigate for any of those purposes, and we settled on these 3, and I think these were the ones that really, of the color combinations, stood out the most and had the best eye-pleasing to them.
Another layer on that was we obviously want to use our materials that we created to help us make these decisions. And so we felt like the archetype of the hero, this was absolutely more appropriate for the archetype of the hero. Whereas when we had some of the more saturated, bolder colors, that would have been maybe for the magician or for the jester. And so we really, really wanted to respect the hero and who we are and how we really want to move forward. So with the monogram of the F and the M, plus a little bit of a cooler palette, and being able to be, I think, humble but confident was really one of the resonating characteristics that we wanted to bring to life with this particular logo.
There are some styles with this one too that you know, from my graphic side and background in just creating animation, those types of things, that also plays well into what we've done in the other side of this. So if you think back to the motto that was there, the empowering our future, you can take the F that's in that right there, morph it into future, to then into Fort Mill.
Oh,
You
nice.
can go all different
Yep,
directions
that's
with
nice. Yep.
that. You know, I thought that this offered us a lot of options to do some very
Flexibility.
neat things with.
Yep.
I like it. I just don't, when I look at that particular slide, this for the, I'm like,
Yeah, and I can't
Split
guarantee
pea
that
soup?
we'll ever use that, to be
I don't know,
honest.
yeah, I don't think we will.
Again, the yellow will
So
be
you're
more
saying
of
the
a
yellow is too
general accent.
muted,
It's too something, it looks
mustardy
like,
and not yellow enough. is
it
what I
looks
think
like
you're saying.
something that an infant,
Doesn't,
I can assure you, we have no intention of wearing bright yellow shirts
Yeah,
anytime
nope.
in the district.
right.
But
Which
if you
would be an
think the
accent.
flip side of that, if you're dealing with a navy and you have a small yellow accent in it, that'll be a little bit.
Yes, agree. And I love it on the
honestly,
light blue.
truthfully, that does give us, as she mentioned earlier, a nice historical tie. You know,
Yeah,
if you
with
look
the
in the
yellow.
front office up
Yeah.
there, we have Fort Mill Schools just in a chrome lettering, but there is the yellow graduate that's in there. So
Yeah.
Right.
it does still give us a tie back that allows us to continue to use some of the previous things
Mm-hmm.
that we really are, you know, tied to.
And if we can get access to that deck?
Yes.
Oh, the complete
I can
deck,
send
sure.
this, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep,
and a lot of that
absolutely.
was the work that we worked on in here. I know
Yeah.
you were on my team that
Yeah,
day,
that's
so,
right. Yep.
that would have all that information through there.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, the, couple questions. One, I appreciate all the work that you team, I'm sure a lot of people up here and in the audience were a part of it. Going back to the brand definition and these purposes, mottos, vision, mission, is that a marketing tool or is that a organization-wide mission, vision?
I
Accept.
would say that it's both.
Yes.
You know, this, as she said, helps drive what we do every day. But when we are, as the example of looking for a teacher, we're gonna use that to maybe entice them, but also to see if they share those same beliefs. Specifically, when you're looking at the internal side of that, you know, creating a sense of belonging, that's less of a, you know, I'm not gonna go out there and use that as my motto statement. It's not gonna say Fort Mill School is creating a sense of belonging.
Right.
We're not gonna do it that way. But we might interwork that into whatever message we're creating to help sell that out to our community, sell it to our students, sell it to a future prospective employee. But it's not gonna be a standalone sentence that's just posted up on something with our logo above it.
So I guess my concern is it definitely uses positive language. It definitely uses language that you want to aspire to, inspirational language. But for me, it doesn't answer a question. What do we do here? My concern is if you were to take these statements and hide them from the organization, you wouldn't know that we were a school district. And so in looking at these types of statements, I like to see almost a goal, right? What would you say we do here? Well, I can look to this, and then I can answer questions. As a teacher, I can look to that, and how am I supposed to conduct myself in this scenario or that scenario? Then I can answer it by looking at those statements that are coming from the organization. That's my concern with these
Well, and I
types.
think to that specific example, if you look right there, you said, how should I conduct myself as a teacher? It's answered for you right there where it says that because of our belief, we believe in an individual experience for each student. As a teacher, you need to be providing that to your student. If you are looking at, you know, how do I work with my students, or how do I be around them, or how do I help them succeed, you need to create that sense of belonging for all of them. They need to want to be in your classroom. They need to want to do that work with you.
I think additionally too, we have to also look at the intent for the tool. So the intent for the tool was definitely to unify, but it was also to establish our direction forward and making those decisions. So the question of what do we do here, the overall equity, which is an external, and that could be the implications of marketing. It establishes impactful pathways for students and staff. So it's much more aspirational and much more ethereal. But we don't want to make this a marketing tool. This is going to inspire marketing, but again, it's your brand, so it's your heart and soul. So you can still absolutely have mission statements. This is not a mission statement. Mission statements can get into the weeds, into the details, and that's what that tool is supposed to do. Whereas this tool is much higher level. It should be much more inspirational and aspirational.
It's not a mission statement.
No. Your mission statement is different from this mission vision. That's not a mission statement.
That's what I was getting at when
That's
we
not
were
a
on that
mission
page.
statement.
Because if I go to our current district website, and I look at the About Us, for example, our vision says, because children are the future, we use our ingenuity and imagination to challenge and inspire our students to exceed their greatest dreams and create a better community. That's why we place children first every day.
Right.
There's nothing currently on that slide
Correct.
that's going to be the exact words that are going to replace
No.
this yet.
What's on that
is what I'm
slide
hearing.
will impact.
Yes.
So there will be a new statement out here driven by this, but it's not those words.
Correct.
Exactly.
So,
That the board has already approved.
Right, which is what
Strategic.
we've already
Well-
done from strategic planning.
Well, but we're not gonna leave this, that is why we place children first every day, if we switch to this. It's gonna have to be something different, but it's not what we currently have on this slide.
so if you think about this particular tool, this is, it's very pithy, it's very short, it's very memorable. In other situations, it's something that your team can really kind of rally behind, but they can also memorize. Not that you would, want people to memorize, but you can actually say that we are here to create a sense of belonging for all. And I think that that immediately gets everybody working on the right path. So when you go into the depths of the mission statement, it gets into how are we going to do it. This doesn't necessarily say how, so it's still empowering, whether it's a teacher or a school or a parent or a student. You might get into a little bit more kind of directives with the imperatives and the beliefs, but this isn't necessarily telling your folks how to do things.
So it really isn't the organization, mission, and vision.
It's the overarching organization mission vision. Yes, it's the brand mission vision, but it's not the mission statement.
Okay.
Or the vision statement, or the purpose statement, or whatever.
Statements are different. This
would
is
have
not
to
a
be
statement.
created
Yeah, correct.
From
Yes.
that.
Correct.
Going-
From
Yeah.
what we have here.
Going
Yes.
back, I know sorry. After you.
If we're staying on this topic, it might make sense to the people that were not here, meaning the audience, whatever, on that day, that if you explain how we used Mr. Young's archetype
Yes.
and then got to this. I think that's the piece that
Okay.
we're missing. So maybe if you pull up the
Do you want-
slide of the archetype,
Yes.
that would help. I'm sorry, Brian.
No.
So actually, let me go back to this one. So this was, okay, you're right. So this was really the biggest challenge of the day.
It was.
This was really getting everybody in the room to kind of move in the right direction. So when we did this exercise, we started in the middle. So as a district, what did we really want to focus our energy on? So is it providing structure, connecting to others, leaving a mark, or seeking paradise? So that's question mark, right? And so we needed to make a decision because that is going to be your driving principle for your archetype. And your archetype is a personification of your brand. So how do we, again, drive the ship? In what direction? Because these are all very, very different. They're 4 very different quadrants. So when we narrowed it down to the hero, as an overarching school district, it was about leaving a mark. So we wanted to help and support and inspire our teachers, our students, and our parents. But that gave them the right to organize their schools differently because they're principals, right? And so the principals are really caring for the teachers, and the teachers are caring for the students. The parents are caring for the students as well. So we as a district, it really positioned us in a place that we could establish ourselves to leave that mark on society, on the community, as being, again, the inspiration to make people feel braver, bigger, and establish themselves more competently. So that's how we use the archetype to then drive forth the definition. And that together with, I think, all of the other work that we had done in this room with figuring out our values, figuring out our brand character, all of that stuff kind of comes together and starts to define our definition. Does that help?
So then when you get to hero, a hero has other things different than a magician or a jester or whatever that is. So as a hero, we jumped to that other page with all the words on it about internal and externals.
Just as a concept, what it looked like we were doing here was changing the mission, vision,
Yes,
mottos.
yes, but this is.
That's not what we're
across
doing.
the-
We're doing a marketing exercise. So,
We're changing the mission, vision, and mottos, yes, but we're not changing the statements, the mission statements.
yeah, so I think
Okay.
that clarified things. for me.
Okay, great.
But that is something that will still need to be done.
Yes, ma'am.
Because
Yes,
if we move to empowering our future,
Yes, ma'am.
instead of children first every day,
That's right.
everything around that has got to be amended as well.
Yep, correct. Yep.
And some of that really comes from, honestly, truthfully, the district has already kind of identified that before we even started this process.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go over to our training center, the quote that's right above the door says, "The future's in my classroom right now." So we'd already picked something that was very similar to this, knowing that that's our brand, but without ever actually putting it forward. And I think the key to that, the other change, you ask about the, instead of empowering the future. Part of the change to the hour was because we wanted ownership of it. We wanted it to not only be that we're helping for somebody else's future,
Right.
but it's our future.
Right.
So that was part of the, and that one word makes a big difference
Yep.
when you're looking at it. And
That's
that's part of what we will do in the branding and marketing moving forward. You know, make sure that's part of our message as well.
And you've got that on the seal. One question is, what do we call ourselves? So your logo has Fort Mill School District, but we've been referred, I don't think we refer to ourselves as that, and haven't for years. And so but the logo has Fort Mill School District.
What do you
Our
mean?
current logo has Fort Mill School District.
Huh? Fort Mill Schools has been,
Oh, instead of Fort Mill School District is what
Oh,
you're
I see
saying.
what you're saying.
Is
we've
that
been doing Fort Mill Schools for years.
It does say Fort Mill Schools.
Yeah,
Right,
not the main-
but the logo doesn't.
That one says Fort Mill Schools. The logo says Fort Mill School District.
Ah, okay, I'm with you now.
Yeah.
Your shirt.
What does it say?
It says
Fort Mill
Fort Mill
Same with
Schools.
wings.
Schools, there you go.
And
You got that one too?
so part
So
of
we-
that came from the fact that the short moniker that everybody uses for us is FMSD.
Right.
They don't use FMS.
Right.
So we kind of
Right.
But
decided to
if,
follow
it's
that.
interesting, if you go to the page that has the four Yorks, or some of the Yorks on it, it does say Rock Hill Schools, and then down below, in little teeny font, it says York County School District 3, or whatever, York County District 3. So I do think that's a valid clarification if we want to start saying Fort Mill School District versus Fort Mill Schools, that is. And in the lady and in the seal, it does still say Fort Mill Schools, so we've kind of
Might need
got.
to change the domain name. It's just,
Yeah, or
there's, right, what are you gonna call yourselves, I think is an important question
What we
to
were trying to do
answer.
is match everything up, because right now, like I said, we're FMSD for the moniker, but whenever we were talking, it's Fort Mill Schools. We hear a lot of people say Fort Mill School District. We have some stuff that says district, some that says schools. So we were trying to solidify that. Now, if we need to go, well, we did in our new package. When we, moving forward, it would be used as Fort Mill School District.
No, but I'm saying, but you
Oh,
still
for the
call it
seal
Fort Mill
you're talking
Schools in the seal, so
Yeah.
we still got it
Yeah.
as
Because
it
we
is.
kept the seal basically the same
So,
as it was
so we
originally.
probably need to,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could,
Yeah.
and so
That
that would be
school-
something
that
that's good
seal
feedback to
says
go back and
district.
change.
Yeah, the
Right.
The blue.
Yeah.
right, but not the official one,
Yeah,
so.
the original
you still have
formal
this
seal, we left there in there.
Yeah.
I don't think I have an opinion on it, except for that it probably needs to be consistent.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, I do wanna share my opinion on one thing.
Absolutely.
Me too, when he's done.
You wanna go first?
No.
You sure?
Sharon's opinion.
I'm not a fan of the logo.
Okay.
When I first saw it, I didn't get it.
The F and
And-
the M, you didn't see the F and the M?
I
No,
don't see the M. I see
No.
a
Oh,
a
really? I
dropping
totally
three,
saw the M.
but not an M.
I see a squished F maybe if I look this way. But that's what I see. Again, I know that it takes talent to do these things. I'm not knocking the talent. And I don't like the colors. So, but I haven't really talked to anybody who likes the colors, so.
So what is it about the colors that don't work?
That's a question that takes more talent than I have.
Okay, gotcha,
All I know, right, I
okay,
have a purple tie on,
gotcha.
right?
I would say,
too.
if I was hedging, because I kind of know how you need the M to be the darker blue and the corner to be the lighter blue.
Gotcha.
I didn't see an M, so I have no clue, right?
Yeah,
But
no,
So it needs to be darker.
I
see
think
that.
that's,
I understand that, yeah.
I didn't see the F, so.
You didn't see
And
that?
I will,
I see the M, I see the F, and I
Could
can't
be
unsee
F3,
the F.
yeah.
I will just add in, I see it, although I think your point about the dark and the light might make a difference. I loved the animation with the mortarboard.
yes.
I don't see a mortarboard automatically when I look at this, so I don't know if there's a way to sharpen the corners or add a tassel or something that would make this more obvious as a mortarboard, because when I compare it on that page that has all four of the,
Yes.
or five or whatever, it's a little elementary compared to some of the others that have a little bit more definition. So if there was a way to punch it up a little, the F and the M, the little, I like the idea of the F and the M. And I was, Fort Mill High School does this thing, and I won't get my fingers right, where they,
Yeah, right, I
they
can't
do
do that either, but right.
an F and an M, they have a little
Kinda like
thing
we
that
do
they
a
all do.
VT.
And so I love the idea of making the F and the M letters
Yeah,
into it.
yeah.
But I think the reason why this is, I agree that I can't, the M, I
Okay.
can't unsee the F.
It's darker,
Okay.
I think you're right, I think it's.
But I understand why you went with this logo, because it's sleek, it's modern. If you're looking at Facebook or any kind of social media, most brands are like this. So I understand why we went with, and I don't mean to say this the wrong way, but it's a simpler brand, as
Simpler,
opposed to
I was
all
gonna
the
say.
detailing
Yes,
from
it's-
some of the other districts.
It feels.
Because
a-
it's clean
That's
and
right.
it's neat and
Yeah.
it's,
And it shows up a lot better because it is that kind of iconic symbol, because it is simplified. You're totally right. Yeah.
my only concern is the lighter shade of blue. So navy, which is what all the other ones have for the most part.
Yep.
So we blend in, which I guess that's good if we're all York 4, but we certainly do not stand out if we're at a conference.
Right.
And you see lots of navies, nobody's gonna know which one Fort Mill is.
Sure.
But the beauty of a color like navy is that it never goes out of style.
That's right.
Whereas that lighter blue is Caribbean blue. It'll come and go, just like Tinkerbell green and some of the other colors too.
What's
So my-
Tinkerbell green?
Tinkerbell green.
Like, literally like Tinkerbell?
Like Sasquatch Brown.
So kind of like
With
the,
you on that.
the olive green in the 70s. When you see it,
Yeah,
you think
Union.
30, out of
Think the
style.
70s, right.
And when you think of Tinkerbell green, you're thinking like early 2000s.
Legion,
That's it.
yeah.
So green can go in and out of
That's right.
style.
Yep.
And yet we've got forest green at Catawba Ridge, and I can't find any plates, cups, napkins for graduation or anything, or shirts in that color. So my concern is with the lighter blue.
Yeah.
Because that's a trendy color, which is, I think, what we wanted. We wanted something new and something to
Fresh.
catch everybody's eye, fresh. I think that would be a great accent color
Yep.
on a lot of our social media and so forth. It helps relate to students, it helps relate to younger families.
Yep.
It's going to draw younger teachers, but I'm concerned 5, 10 years from now, it's
Sure.
gonna date us very quickly. But you did make me feel better when I heard you say 5, 10 years.
Yes.
So it sounds like this is a logo that we need to, that you're intentionally going to revisit in 10 years.
I think right now we're doing a revolution. I think 5 to 10 years would be an evolution. So we would still want to really build equity in this, but we would probably touch it. So just from experience, this is very flat, and it's probably going to need to be dimensionalized in 5 years, just because, again, the trends will go that way graphically. And it's something too that I think, to your point, we could probably adjust the colors pretty easily too. And obviously right now everybody wants to start ordering things. Is it a blue shirt? Is it a green shirt? Is it a yellow shirt? So those are things that we definitely want to walk out with something established that everybody's comfortable with. And we can continue to work on that if we need to. But knowing that school's starting, we definitely want to have something that's going to be fresh and clean and bold enough. So absolutely, 5 to 10 years, we're going to refresh it. We're going to need to touch it again.
Some of the things to consider too, when we talk about the clean and the more sleek style of it, and again, this goes back to usage. When you look at some of the
Right.
ones up there,
You're
such
right.
as the Rock Hill one, they have the very intricate fingers on there, the Legion one, you try to embroider something like that, or
Oh,
you
yeah,
shrink it
you're
down
right.
and put it on a
Right.
letterhead, or
And that's why I think the clean,
things like that.
slicker look
You run into a little bit more
is
of an issue.
better.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, even our current logo, by the time we put it down on a letterhead, you can barely tell that that's the graduate in the eye.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like an ink blot.
Right.
So,
Right.
So we wanted to try to make sure that whatever's there, it's recognizable no matter what size it is, if it's on a billboard or if it's, you know, on the back of a card. It needed to be something that's easy to see. I know Scott's been waiting to talk. and I
Yeah, go ahead.
apologize for jumping in.
Oh, no. I was gonna say, for the reason that it does look very modern. I do think it appeals to people because it looks like an app on the phone.
Right.
Like, it looks like an app that somebody would open up and say, I want to learn more about Fort Mill School District. So I do like it from that aspect. The only concern that I have, and I'm a University of Pittsburgh grad, so I love the colors blue and yellow together. I just absolutely do. But I think we run the risk in this community when we put blue and yellow together of being a third of an appeal to a group and not the other two groups. So that's my concern with seeing a primary logo that has blue and yellow together.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's part of
I
why we
gotcha.
stayed away from the royal blue that is used.
But it's blue and yellow.
Oh, I
right?
agree with
It is. So that would be my only concern in seeing that, is that 1/3 of our community is going to go, boy, that looks really good, and 2/3 are going to go, blue and yellow together? Kind of looks like Fort Mill colors. Right?
And I think some of the other colors we really leaned a lot towards was we had a nice blue and green, and there was, and I don't mean that we had those exact ones, but to Ms. Carter's point is we had blue and green up there. Again, that's every school district around us, so we ran into problems there. And again, it's that hard balance also too. We don't want to mirror one of our schools exactly, and a lot of it's going to be in the use of the color and how we set it up. But I mean, you could even make the case that it's Pleasantville Elementary because the light blue and navy are so close to that blue and black. So,
But I was involved in
Oh, yeah.
the choices of elementary schools, most of them, and it was intentional to try to select colors that weren't tied to high schools.
yeah.
You're always going to run over that, but I think when you have two colors in the main logo for one of our high schools and not the other two, I think it's a risk. I do, that it's going to.
I'm hearing blue and pink.
I would take it, honestly.
No orange.
I love I do
Sorry,
love that
no
color
orange.
pattern, but I just think it's a risk for us.
It's a fair point. Yep. Yep, thanks. Yep. Anything else? Yeah.
Well, and if you changed that to red, you've done pretty much the same thing.
I don't
Now
I
you
don't see
see
black up there. Change it to green. I'd be fine with it too. What I'm saying
I'm not
is,
because of the other greens. And don't get me wrong, I love green,
right,
but
I think if you put red in there with blues, who's red and blue together? Who's that?
nobody, but you've got red for Nation Forge, you've got blue for Fort Mill, and you've got nothing for Catawba Ridge.
But what I'm,
Kingstown would be the one that would be the red, white. and
Yeah, they
blue.
would. That's right.
But again, you said it's an elementary. I get, like I said, we were trying to stay away from all of our schools as much as possible, and to staying away from the other districts as much as
Color's
possible.
very emotional. It's very personal, and
It
it's
is.
always the hardest. So we can absolutely take it back and take it offline.
Okay.
Okay.
So we've got two different fonts up there with the F and the M. So do you think by separating the F from the M, that you would make those fonts the same? Or do you think they'll stick with the mortarboard? Okay, so you have your F, which is square,
Which is a capital.
which is a capital, and it looks like a lowercase m
we have red and green.
when I do see the M, but it's got very curved edges.
Yes.
So you've got a strong, hard F.
Oh,
And
so you're
then
saying
curved
if we
and
make it
sharpen the
So
sharpen.
it-
Yeah,
so
and
if you
that's kind
break
of what I
the-
was, because then it looks also a
Oh, I
little bit more like a
understand.
mortarboard as well.
Gotcha.
Crisp it up a
Yeah,
little.
so,
So the tassel would become
And if
the,
there's I don't know if there's an opportunity for a tassel, just to make it obvious that it's mortarboard, but.
when she told me it was a mortarboard, I'm like, what are you talking about? And I saw the video, because the video to me turns into the logo. I didn't realize that the video, that it's supposed to be, and again, if it's printed, you don't see the mortarboard,
And the tassel is the blue and yellow. The yellow part, that's why that was the concept. That's kind of how we came up with it.
Oh, so the yellow is the fray of the tassel?
Yeah. So the blue would be and then yeah. Again, it's abstract, it's not literal, it's not literal. We wanted it to be kind of representative of the graduate and how we were gonna move it forward, so. But you're right, I think making it a little sharper might make it a little bit more consistent or cohesive with the F and the M. Yeah.
I don't think we want to
try.
go to a perfect sharp corner square like the Rock Hill, but
I'm just saying, it's just
I
odd
like,
that you've got
I like the
And I do like the idea of the app,
softer corner.
the
Yes.
visual of an app. And, you know, I was just sitting here thinking about, we've already got an app, and we can,
Right.
I can see this becoming the new,
What the app looks
logo.
like.
right, I can totally see that, so
Yeah, right?
I've already seen that, but yeah.
okay.
Well, la-di-da.
Literally.
So I guess my question is, we have to vote on this.
We can't vote tonight because it's not on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, tonight was
And-
just an update on where we are.
And I know there's appropriate anxiousness to get moving, because we're not that far away from the start of school,
Well,
so.
our hope was, and I thought Joe was gonna mention this, but maybe he never got a chance. Our hope was to roll out something August 3rd. We have a big administrative in-service, and then on August 10th, we bring all the teachers together. But we still can make that happen, I believe, or we could push it back.
I mean, I think it truly depends on walking out of here, the amount of work we have left to do. If we're going back to the drawing board with colors and we're going back to the drawing board with shapes, that might take a little bit longer.
We need to get it right. It's more important to get it right.
Agree.
And I did not hear back to the drawing board.
No.
As much as I heard some ideas of some tweaks. And the clarification, schools, school district, those kind of things. That's really what I think I'm hearing. I was gonna look at my calendar. I think our official next meeting,
Is the
as
ninth.
of right now, is the 9th
August the
for a
9th.
formal approval. Who knows if we might end up needing to get together prior to that for other reasons anyway, so there might be another opportunity between now and then.
Okay.
But the most important thing is to get it right, and that means, per policy, the board will vote on it, and we'll go with what the board says.
I'm probably personally more inclined to school district, but that's the formal side, counterbalancing the curved corners. When you think in terms of, let's use conference and when we go to delegate assembly. Well, I don't know, which are we? Are we Fort Mill or are we York 4? So the reality is, Fort Mill School District is a us thing, because in the state,
Right.
we're York 4.
Yeah, we're York
So it's
4 to
whichever one we wanna
everybody
use.
else.
Right.
FMSD or.
Rock Hills York 3 and
They're
Clover's
just
York.
jealous. They don't want to use our full name and give us more recognition.
I mean, I think look at Clover, it says Clover School District, and they're the exact same as we are. They're, what, York 2?
Right. Well, and the same with
And then Rock Hill says Rock Hill Schools, so I don't think it matters,
Right.
we just need to,
We need to decide.
Pick one and
Right.
go.
Right.
So that it's unified and consistent.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for
I
your time.
appreciate it.
Yep.
awesome.
Thank
We
you
made it
very much.
Congratulations.
Made it better or worse.
I know.
We're not an opinionated bunch.
Everybody's got.
It-
And that's kind of where and how that goes, yes.
Scott Federola will remember this. We used to do elementary school colors and carpets, and we had the same discussion with 7 board members trying to pick the color of a carpet and a wall. That's why we quit doing that, but.
That's right.
Thank you.
Divide a church.
All
I
right.
tried to avoid those meetings.
Our next agenda item is an update on the budget, because when we met last, we approved a budget, but we knew that there was still discussion happening down in Columbia, and so Leanne,
Correct.
tell us how we landed.
Yes. Well, good evening now. I thought I'd be starting the afternoon, but I think we're down to the evening now. I'm going to start with giving you a few key points of the final state budget at the state level. Things that have happened since we met last time. On June 15th, both the House and the Senate adopted the recommended budget by the conference committee. And as a reminder, the conference committee was tasked with working out the differences in the proposals. The governor vetoed 73 budget items, and the state budget's $13 billion. So it was really a small amount of vetoes compared to some prior years. The General Assembly worked through the vetoes, which in the end had little impact on K-12 education funding. Probably the only proviso that significantly affected districts was 1.99. That was a proviso that would authorize school districts to hire non-certified teachers in critical needs geographic areas and subject areas. It was sustained, so it was pulled. It's no longer in the budget. But there had been a lot of discussion through the process this spring about that proviso and allowing districts to hire non-certified teachers. A couple highlights of what came out of the conference committee report. $273.5 million was put in, and the new title is State Aid to Classrooms. We no longer have Education Funding Act or EFA or Base Student Cost. We have State Aid to Classrooms. And in the end, the conference committee decided to run all of those funds through the new formula. I think I had reported out to you on a previous meeting that the House version went back and only ran a portion of that. They guaranteed the 2021-22 funding with the old formula, but the conference committee, the final budget was based on running all of the dollars through the new education funding formula. The statewide teacher minimum salary schedule was increased $4,000, making the beginning teacher salary with the bachelor's degree at $40,000. As you recall, there had been a lot of discussion to go from $36,000 to possibly $38,000, but they did go the full amount to the $40,000. This does require each district to meet this statewide minimum amount, but it does not require you to maintain any type of local supplement at the same level above the new state minimum. There's been a lot of discussion about that throughout the process. It does require districts to provide the annual step increase to teachers for an additional year of experience. That is a requirement in the final state budget. It specifies that no local match is required for the EIA distributions that were rolled up, which was some help to districts, that no local match was required. And it did, which affected, I believe in the end, 4 or 5 districts. It did contain the hold harmless language that we have been really fighting for throughout the process, specifying that each district would receive either the amount determined by the new methodology or the actual funding received in fiscal year 21-22. A couple other provisions that we already annually do anyway. It requires each district to post by September 1st its annual budget on our website. We have been doing that annually. It requires the RFA to develop an online financial dashboard to document districts' expenditures and to convene a group of educators, parents, citizens, and policymakers to provide recommendations regarding the items and the design of the dashboard. So that should be interesting, but it's another step in accountability for districts to, I believe, be consistent in their reporting and make that available to the public. So none of these requirements worry us in the least.
But in all seriousness, how does one
That's a great question.
express
So,
interest in helping
yes,
sort out whatever that new reporting looks like?
we can certainly check with our contacts at the state level, as well as I believe you could probably work through the School Boards Association on that as well. And hopefully between all of our contacts, we can express an interest in having some representation with that group. And the teacher supply, they call it a stipend, the teacher supply funding did increase to $300 going forward. It's currently has been at $275. So all of our teachers will receive that based on their first contract day, or sometimes we process that a few days earlier before the tax-free holiday in August. But by state law, you're required to provide that to your teachers by their first contract day. So that is increasing to $300 for the benefit of our teachers.
Wasn't there a mention of a $100 increase, like in our minutes from last time? Because I remember thinking about that earlier when I was
20,
reading.
I think maybe it was $25 increase.
Well, that's what's being said.
Right. We'll get back and to clarify. Thank you. Sure. Sure. But it is, the final state budget did set that at $300.
Okay.
I think what she's talking about is that we provide $100 to the schools for every.
Correct. That might, we provide what we call our school budget is based on $100 per student.
Into the individual school activity fund.
Right.
I think that's.
Yes.
No, you don't think so? Okay.
Without reading it, I don't.
Okay.
And our athletic fee and band fee is $100.
Not talking about that. No,
So,
it had nothing.
We have a lot of $100 going around, but I will double check on the wording on that to make sure.
Go back to the hold harmless, just to
Okay.
clarify. So you said they put it back in,
Yes,
and it was necessary for a handful, of which we are one.
correct,
Is it still in a proviso, and therefore only in a proviso, so we
correct.
run the risk that it's not there next year?
We run the risk, we will be probably fighting the fight again.
It was $5 or so million?
Correct, correct. Yes.
Okay.
We'll start that early,
Oh, yeah.
reminding our legislators about that. As far as how does this now impact us locally and what you passed on June the 7th? In the budget that the administration proposed that you passed, the new education funding amount, or the state aid to classroom as it's now called, was set at $84,187,685. The final version of the state budget, the amount is $84,279,037. So that's an increase of $91,352. That's not a very large, significant difference on a budget of $191 million. But I'm grateful that the amount went up and not down. Several districts, their amount was lowered with the final formula. So
Well,
the
because-
final,
Because they would have gotten a whole lot more from the new funding mechanism.
yes.
And they didn't.
And there was, that's a great point. There was some impact from the hold harmless in that the hold harmless was taken off the top. And then the net number was used and allocated on the new funding formula. So we received the benefit of the hold harmless off the top. There were no other significant funding line changes that impacted the budget that you passed other than that number. So $91,372. The other item that I wanted to bring to your attention, because I get a lot of questions about this, and you've probably seen now that most school districts across the state have now passed their local budgets, there's been a lot of articles come out about where did they land on teacher salaries after a lot of back and forth, and how did the other districts compare with the new state minimum teacher pay now that we know it went up to the full amount of $40,000 versus the $38,000 that they were discussing. I did a little survey. The surrounding districts, we talk frequently, as well as some key districts across the state. The range of teacher salaries is $42,180 up to $43,511. We set ours in the budget that you passed at $43,400 because we were at $41,400. We did a flat $2,000 increase, so that took us to $43,400.
And then say again the range of the, this is the range
Okay.
of just the folks that you've talked to, not.
Correct.
You haven't got the whole range of the 80 districts in the state.
Correct. That has not been compiled.
Based on who we normally kind of compare to.
Who we normally kind of compare to close by. Close by who we think we would really be in competition with if we're both going after the same teacher, let's say. Driving distance, 42,180 up to 43,511.
And we're at 43.4.
Plus or minus $100.
We're at 43,400. I will share that this does place us third in York County, where for as long as I can remember, we've been the highest in York County. And I wanted to share that with you this evening. We're not far out of range.
What would it take for us to?
Okay, so we're not far out of range, and really, I think what happened is a lot of the districts, everyone came out and said, we're doing 2,000, we're doing 2,000. They also applied their local supplements on top of that. not to their full salary, but they took $2,000 times the local supplement percent.
Oh, the 15% that we used to be.
Correct.
I gotcha.
And so they added a little bit more than the flat 2,000. Does that make sense? And that bumped us down a little.
Because right now, at 43.4, we're only 8.5% over the.
Correct.
state minimum.
Correct.
Whereas we used to be 15%. above the state
Correct.
minimum.
So we are $111 out of the high range. Do you see that? Okay. We currently have 1,489 staff paid on the teacher scale. So that's an important number, 1,489, 1,489 staff paid on the teacher scale. So there's a couple options. You know, I know that you like options. Options.
Let's be clear, Leanne,
Okay.
options to get us to the number one
Correct.
in the county.
Correct. So if let's say we take the $91,352, because that's kind of free money. You know, we didn't expect it. But if you take 91,352 divided by 1,489 teachers, we could only increase $45 because you've got to increase for the fringe cost too. You know, retirement, Social Security, so that's like 32%. So we can't do it with just the 91,000 if we want to get to that place. So we would need, so if we take, I'm just calling this option one. If we applied the same methodology and we took $2,000 and added our 15% to it, that's an additional $300. So we would be adding $2,300. That's an overall cost to us of $589,644. We take off the $91,000 that I'm calling the free money, so we need $498,000.
That's 1.5 mils.
It's 1.7 mils. So keep that in mind, that's 1.7 mils to add $300. The second option you might want to consider is adding $200, because $200 puts us at $43,600. And remember I said the high was $43,511. So to get us to $43,600, it takes $393,000 minus the $91,000 free money. We need $301,000, and the value of a mill is $300,000. So it would only take a mill to add the 200 and bump us up. So option 3 is, just to keep this in mind, any additional $100 that you would want to add per teacher, we need about $200,000 to do it. So every $100 is slightly less than a mill, but just if you're thinking, well, what if we added $500, or what if we, do you see what I'm saying? Just to give you some idea. So either doing $300 more at 1.7 mils or $200 more at 1 mil would maintain us as the highest paying district in York County. The other options, well, I don't know how to call them options, but you know, there's always the, could we bank on tax growth coming in over budget? Could we bank on pulling some more out of the contingency fund? Or worst case scenario, we do have fund balance. Yes, we could do that. But
That's a one-year.
that's a 1-year non-recurring, and you know, I'm all about the recurring money and protecting us going forward. But that's certainly something that you can discuss. If you decide you would like to make a change in the teacher pay, this would require formal board action for audit purposes, because we have to have documentation that you approved the payroll, the beginning teacher pay.
So if,
which is again something we can't do tonight. It's not
Right.
listed in
Correct.
action item, so it would require a follow-up.
Correct.
If
But-
you wanted to do that.
Yes.
if we were to do that, how would we retro that for the teachers that will have
Payroll doesn't run until what, the 20th?
the end of the month?
We're running, there are a certain group of those 1,489 people that get paid in July. I'll give you an example, if they're on a 210-day contract, like some of our guidance counselors. So if I have a general feel for how the board is going to move forward with this, we would start making the changes in our system tomorrow morning to be prepared, because next Monday we transmit to the bank, just for information.
Or
Next.
we should have a
Paid on the-
special call meeting.
Right.
on Monday.
Right.
It's paid on the 25th, but you start the processing of it
Oh,
on
yeah.
Monday.
We start the process because especially in a new year, we send out the payroll notifications and ask all the staff to verify their pay, their withholdings, that everything is correct. But the large payroll would run in August, but we would have some people affected in July. Yes. So we would prefer, if
How
this
much
is
was
the
budget
direction,
that we approved?
191,948,000.
191?
Yeah, 191.
191,948, because the new number, if, I jotted this number down, because if you move forward with one of these changes and we added, we adjusted it, I would probably recommend that you go ahead and formally amend the bottom line to include the 91,000, since we know that is the state number now. So the new budget would be $192,040,316.
So roughly, a difference of, I think you said about $300,000 in order to go the 200
Correct.
is 0.1% of our budget.
Right.
Not 1%, but 0.1%.
Right.
So I don't worry as much about a 0.1% potential variance if in fact that comes to fruition.
Right.
But, I think we hope to always have more, well, we don't hope to have more growth, but we always seem to have more growth than we could ever predict.
Right.
Dr. Epps,
Yes.
so that delta, how important that delta is to you?
Well, I think from my chair, it's critical because we would be saying how valuable we think that we place our teachers. I don't see how we can profess to be the #1 district in the county or in the area and not pay our teachers at that same rate. So I think in this time that we're going through right now, with teachers going through what they're going through, I think we need to make a statement, and I would recommend making a statement. And I don't know which option you would choose to do it, but I think it's that important for morale and mainly for morale and perception.
And the fund money, that's a one-time deal?
With a D, that's got a D
The
on it.
fund,
So,
Yeah, fund.
the fund balance money?
yes,
That's basically our savings that we use for cash flow
Yes.
in the months where we're not getting the significant property taxes coming in. So that's certainly non-recurring dollars.
Is it a true statement that, let's pretend we got to January and, I don't know, something occurred that we were gonna have to, I don't know, some legal situation or whatever, that we had an unexpected $200,000-300,000
Sure.
bill. That's what we would use
Sure,
to make our payments.
correct,
If we
correct,
didn't have any positive variance.
correct.
Okay.
And also what we use to make payroll or keep the utilities on in the months that we're not
That we
collecting
haven't
cash.
collected.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes,
taxes yet.
yes.
so 2017 to 2023, for the most part, the bulk of the millage increases, based on the homework that I've done and corroborated, has been based on teachers, teacher allocation,
Correct.
new teachers.
Fiscal year
Yes,
2017, absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely. Based on the growth, the priority in this district has always been to fund the salaries and benefit cost for existing staff, and then look at how many teachers are needed for this growth that we have been challenged with over those years.
Additional staff.
Additional staff.
So for clarity, for acute clarity, hypothetically, 2 years ago, we hired 100 new teachers. Proportionately, we're not getting that funding from state,
We are absolutely not getting that funding from the
Okay.
state.
which has been one
proportionally.
of the reasons why
Yes.
there have had to been the need of a millage increase.
Correct.
Goes
Correct.
back to
You as
my
a
rant.
local school board and your predecessors sitting on the school board have had to fund the growth needs of this district locally to offset the deficit in state funding that we have not received. And this year's budget, as you know, has been the most challenging to date with this new education funding formula. And we were hurt the most of any district across South Carolina.
Which goes back to the dialogue of the rant I made regarding being careful, undermining the integrity.
Correct.
So, Dr. Epps, I have a question for you. This is going back to 2 meetings ago, and I had asked a question in regards to if we had ever had a efficiency consultant. And I think you had mentioned maybe 10, 12 years ago we had that, correct?
Correct.
So what was the why? Why did we have
The
a
why was,
consultant come in?
yeah, the why was pretty clear at the time, and Wayne may remember, we were going through, it was the recession, and we got cut several $1 million from the state budget, 5.7 million.
Yes.
2010,
Yes.
it went from 69 to 65 million.
Correct.
So we were looking for ways to be more efficient, and we cut programs too. We cut Leap Ahead, we cut.
Middle
it was
school 4.5
We
million.
cut middle school sports,
Yes. Elementary
we,
schools.
so there was a reason for doing the audit at that time, that it was driven by the economy.
Okay, gotcha. So from a 30,000-foot view, and we're perhaps double the size or close to it, I suggest that we consider something like that again. That's not for cutting staff. I mentioned 2 meetings ago, right-sizing the operation. I would suggest that we consider that, strongly consider it, just to take a look and make sure, because if this is going to be in the world we're going to be in, because I don't believe that this is going to be the last time we're going to do this regarding the teachers' pay, I think we got to somehow, some way, be proactive and look at something like this. So if there is a way of being able to capitalize on some funds that we may find from right-sizing the operation, if that is the case. But based on what I have right here, and I mentioned to you the last 2 meetings, I did my own analysis, and we're pretty lean, which is why I'm a bit frustrated from a completely different point of view. And so I think when you hear me talking about funding, and we can't get the help from legislators, we keep hearing we're going to get help. And my reality is we have to find a way of making this happen. This is not a conservative or a liberal concept. This is trying to do the right thing for our school district. So somehow, some way, we have to be able to look in the mirror and realize what we need to do. People move here because of the school district. We keep talking about, well, if we increase the millages, commercial is going to get hurt. Somebody's going to get hurt. The students are either going to get hurt. The parents are going to be upset about something. Somehow, some way, we got to be able to react accordingly and be proactive. So my mindset is, what are we going to do that we have control over that makes sense? It's not conservative, not liberal. It's trying to find the right ideology, how we can best make this thing work. Because I think at the end of the day, another 2 years, we're going to be back at this. So somehow, some way, what are we going to do? That's my question. You know what I'm going to do.
I personally don't believe that doing an efficiency study on our district is going to be money that will be well spent in finding where we have slush of people doing jobs and whatnot, because we do run, when you look at the state, we run the tightest administrative ship. We are on the bottom end. We are about 4th or 5th from the bottom of what we run in terms of administration compared to all the rest of the 78 districts in this state. It's not going to turn up a secret pot of gold somewhere that we don't know about or don't have, because the funding mechanism does not change. What we get and where we get it from does not change. What we have the ability to change is the level of mills that we're gonna place on a business, because no one in Columbia is willing to change what they've done in Act 388, even though they'll tell you, we messed up and we know it, but we're not gonna do anything about it. So our only option is to raise millage on businesses to take care of our staff, which is who takes care of the children and educates the children. That's the reality, and that's the bottom line.
So my comeback would be, at the end of the day, we can look in the mirror and we could say that we're lean and mean and all of that. My reality is, I can argue and say, perhaps we may not have enough oversight. So I can easily argue that. And we can easily say all those types of things, but the reality is, I think we have to be able to look in the mirror and make sure that we're being the best version of ourselves. If that does mean that we do that, I'm not saying we need to, but I'm making that suggestion from my standpoint. So I'm in support of what you do or decide to do, Dr. Epps, but I believe at the end of the day, we gotta be able to challenge the status quo and not be afraid to challenge the status quo.
You know, we would welcome an audit. That would be a board decision, because that's gonna be a cost involved.
Yep.
Leanne, help me, back in 18 or 19, we used to get some data from the state that would show those different buckets, the percentage in a classroom, the,
That's what I have here.
That's what
so is that
we have.
still updated
It is.
frequently, or, okay?
it is. It's called Insight Data.
It's still a year behind or
It's
so.
still a year behind.
yeah.
It's a year behind, but it is a mechanism that is used to evaluate all districts comparably. We actually upload our accounting records at the end of the year after audit. Every district's required. So it is summarized into these 5 buckets in the same exact way for every district. So whenever we're asked to provide data on how much do we spend per student in different areas, we go to these reports because we know they're consistent, apples to apples, and it's publicly available and transparent.
So,
It's good information.
Yes.
and really, that's what I wanted to make sure that was still being kept up, because we do already have some of the information that allows us to do those comparisons to see what areas are leanest.
Right.
You know, which areas are lean, but which ones are leanest, that we already have at our fingertips.
But there's something
Yeah.
to say about objectivity.
Yes. So, go ahead.
Ms. Lordo, our budget, 90% of it goes to salaries?
I believe we were at 88, 89 point something percent.
So
Yes.
Right.
And then the next highest category is facility operations. And once you take those two, I believe those two combined make up about 95%.
Yeah, and I think what you're suggesting is, it may be that there are areas that are more worthwhile to review than others, than to do the whole, I mean, if teacher
Sure.
salaries are what teacher salaries are, we can audit them till we're blue in the face, but
They're not gonna change.
that's not gonna change anything. So that's a big chunk of the budget that I won't say we can't control, because
Right.
as we're sitting here talking about, we can control how much we pay our teachers, but we're talking about a little teeny bit of a tweak, not.
We are, but I think, I'll just share with you, I don't know how many of you get various communications that come out from the School Boards Association, articles across the state every day. We've seen a lot of those in the last 2 weeks regarding where districts finalize their budgets with teacher salaries. And there's some districts who have made some significant increases in teacher salaries who were significantly behind districts like ours, but they got a lot of state funding under the new formula
that's what I was gonna
that they were able to do, which is wonderful for their teachers. But we're now seeing there's going to be a tighter range of teacher salaries across the state than ever before, where those lower districts who received enough funding to get them up to the 40,000 did that.
I'm curious, so if I'm a district and I'm paying my teachers 36,000, state says, no, I gotta starting salary is gonna be 40. So state's gonna give me the 4,000 this year, are they gonna continue to give me that money?
It's in the new education funding
So
formula.
it's always gonna
So
go forward?
But it's, again, it's still a proviso.
it's still a,
It's still a proviso.
So there's still no guarantee. They've said 4,000, but there's no
Yeah.
guarantee that they're gonna fund
Right, we don't know what the
for
calculation's
us,
gonna be next
anyway.
Well, they
Nobody
never
knows.
funded us because we
Well,
pay
no.
well over.
Right,
But I was
right.
just curious as to how long that.
there's a lot of unknown right now with how this new funding formula is going to be maintained down the road.
So again, back to the, we have no action items for this tonight to take because we didn't plan for it. You know, we're just trying to get the numbers, I
Right.
think, on Friday.
Well, and we just got the new information
Right.
Right,
Friday
we
about
did.
what we
So the
Yes.
question is there interest in pursuing one of the options that Leanne has discussed? We won't vote on it here, we'd have to schedule and we can compare calendars as to how and when we could actually have another session to formalize anything. But is there interest that you want us to pursue another meeting?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
As soon as possible, please.
Yes.
We just help us. It would help the payroll department.
Well, if you got a good feel,
I just need a
we could
feel.
go into late next week with the meeting
We,
if we knew.
we could. I just need a feel for where do you want to be on this?
I think
I'm
that
talking
might
about
be
everybody.
our
Need a,
problem.
you know,
I think what you're asking is 200 more, 300 more?
Right.
Is there a general
Give her a
direction?
And then a date that everybody would
Yes.
need to come
Yeah, we'll
back,
have to
either,
compare calendars.
either
and
Wednesday and Thursday of this, well, Wednesday's tomorrow, you can't do that.
Right.
Thursday or Friday,
It's probably
next
gonna get into
Tuesday,
next
whatever.
week, or,
Yeah.
yeah.
Does anybody have opinions?
Monday and Tuesday are not good for several of us, so it'd be Wednesday or Thursday of next week, just, but if you're talking about a meeting.
Do I have an opinion?
My opinion would be
I have an opinion.
at least 300.
100 or 1,000? Thank you.
So that would be
At least 1.7.
that would be a $500,000 change to the budget and a
Right.
1.7 mil increase.
I think it'd be a 1 mil. He
No?
said.
that'd be 1.7.
If we go up to an even 2, can we get some people to mow grass too? 'Cause, like, I'm not saying that in jest. I'm serious.
If we did 2
Some of the things that were on our
with
list.
the other 0.3 mils?
Yes. Can
Yes,
we
we
can we
could.
look at our items of needs
Yes, we could.
and make sure that we're looking at things, programs potentially.
Because 0.3 times 300,000 is 90,000? We could get the 2 grass cutters for Joe,
We're joking.
so that he won't have us out there cutting the grass.
We did include them already.
We did not, no.
No, and
No.
other things.
Trust me, he's
you know,
already recruited us to cut the grass.
I was prepared to talk about some of those other items and what the plan was for some of those other items, but honestly, this is the most important item on the table. I think we need to talk about.
Right.
So
But yes, if you went a full 2 mils, we would have some other options with that incremental difference that was not used to increase the teacher salaries $300.
Is there an,
I'm interested in meeting again as quickly as possible.
is there an appetite for 2 mils that would give her $300 to play with?
Yes.
Because if there's not an appetite for 2 mils, then she doesn't need to start crunching numbers for a $300 increase.
I have an appetite for 2
I know
meals.
you do.
I know you got appetite for 4.
And, because we had, what, 5, 6 that we left on the table?
Correct. We could have gone 21.
And we did 15.
You did 16. So there's 5 mils on the table. So if you do 2 more, you still left 3 mils. It's not the max. Right.
Yeah, so I have an appetite for 5 mils.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah.
It
In
wasn't
case there was any mystery
Then-
out there in the crowd.
Yeah. Then I'll bring the other part of the list.
Yeah, right?
And again, we're gonna have to have a discussion and we'll have to finalize it, but it sounds like she needs some direction of whether she's looking at 200 or 300,000, $300 per teacher. And that's what that's the part I'm trying to get a sense for Leanne to be able to
Yes.
start working in advance of a formal decision.
Teachers are certainly worth it, but I'm not concerned about 15% over $2,000. That number means nothing to me. Being the highest paid in the county does mean something to me.
That's right.
And so that, I'll just say that's my minimum expectation or desire.
So you've got an appetite for increase, it's just a matter of how much.
Yeah.
For $200.
Minimum.
I might go 3, but it's not about the 15%. I could care less about
Right.
that.
Okay.
Just have to digest that.
Yeah.
I do think it's important, but at the budget, obviously, I voted against the budget because we included 2 positions. I believe the cost was somewhere around $300,000 on those 2 new positions. It turns out those positions would have been enough to fund the teacher increase.
$200.
Yeah, and it would have gotten us there. So I just have to, I would not be in a position tonight to commit to any additional millage, but to ponder and think.
Well, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I get the sense that a $200 increase, which would be a $300,000 budget hit.
Right.
You probably have some degree of comfort with trying, if we get a mill increase, we get a mill increase. If we don't get a mill increase, it might be possible. But anything above that, I don't gather that you're would be comfortable with a $500,000.
I would not be comfortable with a $500,000 increase without a mill increase.
That's what I figured was the case.
To your point, yeah, I would almost be more willing to use contingency funds or reserve funds to pay for that instead of going an additional millage. But I think it's important. I want to recognize that.
Right.
Pay is important, teacher pay is important. At the same time, we usually are over budget.
Under budget.
We have,
Under budget.
under budget. We are over revenued,
Over on collections.
bad word,
under on spend.
but
Right.
would we come up with 3? Ms. Spears, to your point, probably 300?
Yeah.
Could we split it and increase teacher pay the $300 and only use the 1 mill and then come up with the other equivalent revenue of a mill from one of the other sources?
So you definitely want to get that starting salary pay at 43.6 is what you're, is
Well, if we did $300, it would be 43.7.
No, it'd be 6.
Yeah. The 6 was the
Oh, you're right.
$200.
You're right.
It's seven.
Right.
Yeah.
It'd be 43,700.
So you're saying you're shooting for 300, not 200? Your option 2 is 200.
I could go either way.
She's put a new option out.
I
I
could go
think
either
that's
way.
what I just
Yeah, the new option is, let's do a little bit of each.
Right.
So if we increase teacher salaries $300, which would take us to 43,700. We're currently, based on the budget passed, at 43,400. And you approve 1 additional meal only, and then we make up the other difference from revenue collections, under expenditures, contingency if we had to, worst case fund balance.
I'm in agreement with
I
that.
can support that.
How much, I don't mean to put you on the spot, how much under budget were we this year? Wasn't it just a few million? I mean,
Over
It was less than
revenues
1%.
over,
right.
we were,
Right out 1%.
right, we were, it was a little more than $2 million. We're still waiting on final tax revenues to come in.
Right.
Final numbers, final audited numbers. We're still paying invoices every week that we accrue back to June 30th. So I'm probably 30 days away from really giving you a good number if we're going to have any additional to move into our contingency. That would probably, I would bring that to one of the August meetings for your consideration. Once I had some of these things finalized. We will still be running invoices payable to last year through August.
Leanne, talk to me about mechanics for just a second. If any change were to involve a millage increase.
Correct.
We had a official, formal public hearing for the budget previously where we reviewed the proposal at that point in time, which included, sounds like 16 mills. Do we run any risk that we have to have another public hearing like that? If we are talking, to amend the budget or teacher salaries, I don't think that's a big deal. To amend the millage is what concerns me, if we need to have a more formal public hearing again.
We can certainly double check with our legal counsel. I don't think that would be a problem because you have the authority to amend the budget.
Okay.
But if you do a teacher salary increase and you do a millage increase, I would need formal approval.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
get that. I
So-
didn't know if, once we started talking about mills, if that introduced any other public input.
Because remember, the reason I'm saying I don't think that's a problem, and we'll certainly double check tomorrow morning, I believe sometimes the public hearing is 2 weeks in advance.
Right,
And then things happen at the state level and you approve something different in June. And so that's what I'm thinking through.
I just want to be
Yeah,
transparent. I don't want
absolutely,
an issue with that.
absolutely. But I think here, we would certainly let our community know and our teachers, I mean, that 1 mill is attributable to increasing the teacher salaries to a higher level.
So as part of that deal, that option, would we also get Joe taken care of?
We would not, because I would need all that to go to the $300.
Not if we're given a mill, well, adding a mill,
I think in
And
our,
still using some
and
contingency.
still using
what she's saying, that-
some other stuff.
I would leave that up to you. If you want to amend the bottom line of the budget, in addition to the number that I gave you, the $192,040, that includes the $90,000
Right, that we're gonna receive.
we're going to receive, but we would also have to add those expenditures. If that's the desire of the board, I can bring you the new final number.
All right, so it sounds like we're going to continue to discuss and debate anything above teachers. But for the purposes of payroll, that you need to at least start taking some action on. Nothing's going to get printed before we do our formal. I think I heard enough support that you should go ahead and do that at $300. And then how we pay for it is what we still have to
Finalized.
discuss and finalize, whether it's part mill, part contingency, all mill, includes a landscaper as well, or whatever. right?
Grass cutter, yes.
Is that what I heard?
That was an example for anything else that we deemed that on your category lists. I just pulled that out
The
because,
next item, right, one of
right,
Right.
it was one of the items
It was
on
one
the
of the
list.
next items.
And to be fair, when we
Well, no,
spend
but
millions of
but
dollars.
it's a real need.
It
Right,
is a
when we
real
spend millions of dollars on facilities,
That's
and
right.
then you drive by them,
they look like,
no offense, and we've got knee-high, more than a grasshopper, knee-high to me, of grass because we can't get it as quickly as we should, and oh my God, could we have some more rain? That's a real reality. Or bigger lawnmowers, those are your choices. We can get you some tractors, maybe.
All right, so does anyone not agree with at least having her start crunching numbers on an additional 15%, which is what that is, the $300 raise for teachers, knowing that we still have to finalize the details of the budget and the funding sources? Does anyone,
That would be an increase in expense of approximately $600,000. Is that, am I-
Correct. $589,644.
With an already increase of revenue coming in at 91,000.
So it's about
$500,000 difference.
Right.
that difference, that's either got to be
Right. Paid for
rolling the
somehow
dice
or other.
yeah.
Right.
I'm good.
I'm good with that.
Anyone not good?
I haven't decided, so I'm sorry.
All right, so we're going to move on in the agenda.
Okay, thank
to
you.
To your official action item that we have. And others can whisper in your ear their comfort level, so we decide whether we need another meeting or not.
The next item is approval of our annual bond for the installment purchase revenue portion and the equipment acquisition payment. This would be for $6,050,000. Just for the benefit of the public, I'll recap. In December of 2006, the district entered into a school facilities purchase and occupancy agreement with Fort Mill School Facilities Corp. To build Pleasant Knoll and Sugar Creek Elementary Schools, and also add an addition at Nation Ford High School. This bond would cover the annual principal and semi-interest payments that are coming due in November and next May. And those together total $5,409,937. It will also cover the annual December payment on the equipment acquisition agreement that was entered into in June of 2017. And this was for 3 HVAC installations at our schools, 3 different schools that we did with those funds. Just for information, the IPP, or the installment purchase plan, that will be paid in full in 2031. We can look forward to that. And then the equipment acquisition agreement will be paid in full in 2027.
So just
So
in
about
layman's
5
terms,
years.
This was a special financing process that was used in
Yes,
2006. that
correct.
requires We handle it this way instead of the way we've done all of our bonds since then.
Correct. Because these were non-referendum projects, you have to approve this issuance annually instead of, as we do a referendum, you approve the debt all at one time, even though we don't issue until later on.
And frankly, we don't have any choice because we have to.
Correct.
we
Correct.
exist
Gotta make the
and we owe the
payment.
money, so.
Correct.
Gotta make the payment.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the administration to provide for the issuance and sale of not exceeding $6,050,000 general obligation bonds of Fort Mill School District Number 4 of York County, South Carolina, in one or more series, to prescribe the purpose for which the proceeds of such obligation shall be expended to provide for the payment thereof and other matters relating thereto.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the issuance of $6,050,000 bonds for IPRB and equipment acquisition. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
All right.
And we will be going to the market on those bonds. I believe the sale date is set in August, so we'll report back on that sale.
All right, we are in need of an executive session to discuss personnel recommendations, legal issues, and contractual issues. And so at this time, we are moving into executive session with unanimous consent.
Motion to go into executive session.
Thanks, everybody, for joining our special summer session.